This is the very first drawing of this mythical city of Atlantis, and it was published in the very first English translation of Plato in 1928. And it shows 3 concentric circles of land and water. But what's weird is that there's actually a second image that's not so well known. It's this massive rectangular field, 2,000 by 3,000 stadia wide. And it's weird because, well, for most of history, Atlantis was just a location on a map or a myth and even a weird racial theory. But this is the publication that cemented Atlantis in our minds. And the second image is nowhere to be found. So what happened to this drawing? Well, the answer to this might actually explain why Atlantis has survived for over 2,000 years, and why it became really the most famous city in the history of humanity. But let's start from the very beginning, because the very first description of Atlantis is all the way back in the year 360 BC, and we have Plato, the famous Greek philosopher. He talked about justice and love in reality, a lot of things that became the foundation for the way that we think in the Western world. But his favorite thing to talk about was this idea of an ideal society. So one day he starts to write a story about this ancient city of Atlantis, which is this advanced, powerful civilization on an island somewhere in the Atlantic, past the Pillars of Hercules, from which you could reach other islands, and then a whole new continent. It's built on a hill carved into 3 concentric rings of land and water. It's overflowing with resources and minerals, hot and cold springs, brass, tin, and this strange material called orichalcum, and very impressive infrastructure that actually turned it into one of the most powerful economies in that time. But over generations, the rulers of Atlantis became corrupt. They launched a war against Athens, and they lose. And the gods, disgusted by their hubris, sink the island into the ocean. And Atlantis was lost forever. Most scholars agree that this is a morality tale, but there's a few things about the story that's kind of weird. First, Plato doesn't present it as a myth. He tells a story through a very specific chain of real people. An Egyptian priest tells it to Solon, who tells it to his grandson, who tells it to Critias, who tells it to Socrates. So he goes out of his way to make it sound like a real account, and then he doesn't finish it. Nobody knows why. And of course, there's the specifications. Detailed descriptions of the landscape, the architecture with dimensions and materials. So that's the very first account of Atlantis. But then most of Plato's writing gets lost for about 2,000 years. But around the 1400, Europe rediscovers Plato with some other classical texts, and this leads into the Renaissance. There's this massive cultural revolution, but especially for architecture, it's huge. See, before all of this, architects were more like medieval craftsmen. You learn by apprenticeship, and your entire work career is based on commissions from the church. But all of that was changing across Italy. Powerful families were at war. The Medici in Florence, the Sforza in Milan, and the Montefeltro in Urbino. But not just with armies, but with culture. Each family was trying to prove their city was the most advanced and the most beautiful. So all of a sudden there were private clients with big ambitions and big budgets. And with all these books from Plato talking about perfect forms and sacred geometry, something changed. All this is considered to be the very first resume. It was written in 1482 to the Duke of Milan, and it says, "I can design bridges, light and strong, that can be carried with ease. I can make covered chariots safe and unassailable. I can design buildings public and private, and conduct water from one place to another. And by the way, I can carry out sculpture in bronze, marble or clay. And in painting I can do as well as anyone." See, this isn't a craftsman applying for a job. This is a skilled architect, a polymath selling himself, and he's offering to design an entire civilization. And you might have guessed it. It was written by Leonardo da Vinci to the Sforza family. But actually, another architect got the job. His name was Filari, and he actually designed them a city from scratch, and he called it Sforzinde. The ultimate perfect city, a perfect star. Radial streets, concentric rings. Sound familiar? Because they believed by using this ideal geometry you could create the perfect society. They were kind of forgetting about the warning part of Atlantis. So all across Italy, architects are drawing these circles and they call it the ideal city. And some actually got built. This as it was designed as a military garrison right in between these different empires. A 9-pointed star layout with a central piazza and radial streets and perfect symmetry. And this 9-point layout was genuinely effective for defense because you can create overlapping fields of fire. But nobody wanted to live there because, well, first, there was nothing much around it. There's no ports, no trade routes, and no real economic reason for it to exist. But the architects, they really believed that the geometry itself was so attractive that people would be dying to move there. But this elegant geometry at street level, every direction kind of looks the same. So it might be a great fortress, but it was kind of a miserable place to live. In fact, the Republic has to start giving pardons to criminals and basically giving out free land for people to move there. So the first real residents of this ideal city are prisoners. But the obsession with creating this perfect city continued over centuries on paper and as real cities. By the way, all of the research and custom assets that we made for this video, you can check out on our website, which we built using Framer, who's also the sponsor of this video. Framer is a design tool that lets you iterate with precision and turn your design ideas into a live website in a single click. I think Atlantis, it has a very distinct visual language, so although it's gone through so many evolutions across different eras, we really wanted to tie together with this abstraction of the ocean. Typically, to create a moving background like this, you would have to upload a video animation, but using the new shader feature, you can control the movement or color or gradients or the scale straight from the insert panel. The gradients even have a seed property. You can scrub for endless variations and they're always updating library, so it's always growing with more tools. And this is what it looks like. And now you just click create web page and that's it. It's live. You can very easily see how the design can adapt across different devices. And our whole team can build on the same project together in real time. You can find our research page linked in the description, along with a Framer link and a discount code. If you want to check it out, you'll see how every age relates to Atlantis with the tools and obsessions they have at the time. But so up to this point, Atlantis is still just an idea. Nobody's out there really looking for it until this. It was created by a Jesuit scholar called Athanasius Kircher in the 1660s. That's when Europeans are sailing everywhere, and there's this obsession with cataloging everything, and nobody's more obsessed than him. He's kind of like a Leonardo da Vinci figure. He cataloged everything from volcanoes to Egyptian hieroglyphics to Chinese languages. He even descended into the crater of Vesuvius. But all of this had a goal, trying to prove that the ancient Egyptian, Greek and biblical sources all describe the same history of the big biblical flood. So when it came across Plato's descriptions of Atlantis, a story that actually came from an Egyptian priest, it kind of fit perfectly. So he drew it and gave it coordinates and published it. Now, 2 centuries later, another shape enters the story. And on the map of the island he drew a tiny circle. Actually many shapes and patterns and pyramids and artifacts and stories found across cultures, oceans apart. And this book explains all of the connections. It's written by an American congressman called Ignatius Donnelly, and it treats Atlantis as a historical fact, the origin of all civilization, every culture, every myth, every language, all trace back to this one island. And it's a bestseller. Because when you see these things side by side, the patterns are hard to ignore.